Hey guys, it is Nick here, and today we will be seeing how Sophia holds her own against the rest of the Walker and Whisperer army, as well as take into a look if Sophia will ever reunite with the remainder of the group and her pretty much family. This is the finale, after 20 and a half parts of What If Sophia Joined Negan. And let's get into it, folks. Sophia decides to confront the army alone, but having been shot and having a knife thrown at her stomach and back, she is not at peak condition to being able to do this. But with how durable and strong Sophia has become, she pushes this all aside. She knows what she must do. This is to rectify everything. She's become, done everything. And soon enough, she fights, kills, and triumphs over many walkers and whisperers, only getting small cuts and no bites or anything. She's very lucky so far. But she slowly starts to falter, and seemingly start to die. But just then, a savior comes in the form of Lydia. Seeing as though Sophia saved her from her mom but whenever she was trying to slice her with her knife, Sophia smiles at this and knew something like this would happen. And if it wasn't Lydia, she knew it would either be Carol or someone. Carol. Mika's down because of the knife thrown at her stomach, so would have only been Carol or Lydia. And she's happy with this, because now, even though they might not be able to kill all of them, they will at least diverge pretty much 50% of them from getting to the sanctuary and the other communities. But Lydia suggests something different alongside this, saying, while yes, for the walkers especially, killing them would be most proficient, or at least luring them away, but for the whisperers, they are her people, and many of them could be persuaded to just go away. And they try this plan with 50-50 success, so half. But there's one whisperer alive that doesn't intend on giving up without a fight. Beta, who is still alive and shrunk to the side after Alpha was seemingly taken down, is still alive and prepares to launch a counterattack while Sophia and Lydia are fighting. But Sophia sees this, being very perceptive, although, still dying. She sees Beta and knows instantly that if he gets away or gets near them, it's all over. And pulls out her shotgun, boom, 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 boom! 5 shots straight to the head, no mercy, no second thoughts or anything. Beta is taken down effortlessly. And any walkers or whisperers that happen to listen to Lydia, whisperers, slowly, Lydia and Sophia begin to realize that the horde is slowly drifting away from them, and only a small portion is still there to fight them, and they begin to back off. But before they can think on this any further and see if it's actually going to last, Sophia slowly starts to lose consciousness and begins to fall to the ground, because everything she's been through slowly starting to catch up to her, and it seems like this could be the end for our lead character in this story. But Lydia saves her, sort of like she did with Daryl, and grabs her up, and they begin to make their way back to the sanctuary. But is this the last we'll see of the Walker and Whisperer horde? Well, find out later here in the episode. We cut to the sanctuary, where Carol is back there with the remaining saviors, waiting for Sophia and Lydia's return, because Lydia had left unexpectedly. They didn't know. Mika is alive, but she's still recovering because a giant knife thrown into her freaking stomach isn't something that one's just going to be right back up there and recover from, But this is adult Mika, so she's not going to be like kid Mika who got murdered by Lizzie. So she makes it out all right, but she is bedridden for the moment. Carol is impatiently waiting for Sophia's return, and now Lydia's. Sophia way more so because, kid. But soon enough, she sees something in the distance. But then, it's something she wished she wouldn't have seen. There's Lydia, but she's holding Sophia. A dying Sophia, with the shot in her back, the mark of a knife in her stomach, cuts and bruises all around her, and they get her to Negan's bedroom straight away. Because remember, after Negan was killed by Shane, the bedroom of Negan's became Sophia's as the leader of the Saviors. So she is brought in there, and Carol, Mika, and Lydia all do their best with the remaining Saviors to stay by her side and see if she recovers. Mika is actually much more up and about now that she sees her pretty much sister dying. Now Sophia, she sees all this happening very blurrily, but then everything cuts to black for her. And whenever she awakes, she's in the woods. But how is this possible? She was just in the woods, fighting. Last thing she remembers, she was fighting all the Whisperers and Walkers. And then Lydia came in, and then she just passed out. She doesn't remember anything else. How did she end up back in the woods? Did the Whisperers kidnap her or something? But the woods are empty. Not a soul's around, anywhere, even as she continues to walk. But soon enough, she sees something. Someone. A figure is moving slowly towards her. But she can't make out who it is, and it's just one. She doesn't see anybody else around. She walks a little bit closer and tries to get a better look, but the figure is moving towards her. And soon enough, it starts to get closer and closer. Sophia doesn't know whether to be scared, angry, or what. She doesn't know who it is. But she just stays still and prepares a fighting stance to see if she needs to defend herself. But the figure is Negan. And this is utterly, completely, and just, wow, surprising that it was Negan. Sophia doesn't know what to think. She doesn't know whether to be happy, cry, or anything. Because now she's convinced that she is dead. Because Negan died. But the only thought that comes to her mind is rushing towards him and giving him a big, big hug. This would be a really heartbreaking and touching scene to see this happen. Because we know from this point on how close Sophia was with Negan in the story. And she asks him, with so many thoughts running through her mind, how is he here? She was sure that he died. Is she dead? But Negan doesn't answer. He just smiles and says that Sophia's grown into a fine, fine young woman and a great addition to the Saviors, far more so than the little girl who he rescued in the woods all those years ago. And Sophia says, well, that's true. What is she supposed to do now? Everything she's done has tried to be for making herself a better leader of the Saviors. Not even just better, but to the same standard of Negan. Trying to make herself worthy. Making herself worth, good. But what does she do now? She doesn't know. Is this the end for her? But Negan smiles again. He says that if she gives up now, everything she's worked for and tried to achieve after his death will have meant nothing. And he doesn't think that's what she wants to do. Because, think about it. She's done so much so far. She doesn't have to push herself, but she also can't give up either. That's not what he would have wanted. He would have kept pushing forward no matter what. And Sophia smiles at this and knows that Negan's right. She can't give up now, no matter if the odds are seeming like she's going to die. And says that she's really happy that Negan saved her. Because had he not, she would have died a long time ago. And she can't predict how it would have gone from there. And she's proud to call him like a father. This would definitely be a very, very touching moment, especially to hear it said to Negan. Negan smiles, but it's a sad smile this time, and says that the reunion that they just had was nice, but he must leave now. The rest is up to her to figure out her end goal and to keep pushing forward. They sadly embrace and hug, and Sophia really does not want him to leave. After being taken from her, having him to leave again, it really breaks Sophia's heart. And this would, I don't really want to sound repetitive, but it would be really, really sad at this point. And Negan says that although it's really sad for him too, he must leave. But he is proud of the woman that Sophia's grown into, and knows that as long as she keeps pushing herself and never gives up, she will do great things still. And to not blame herself for anything, and to do better than he ever did, not just to the same degree. Shares one last fond look at her, and then vanishes in the woods. Sophia just sits there for a moment, taking everything that Negan said with every fiber of her being. And then everything just cuts to black again. All the thoughts of Negan, all the thoughts of what she had been through, everything that happened now runs through her mind. And then in a split second, she wakes up. But it's not in the woods this time. This time she's staring at a ceiling. She focuses her eyes, and she recognizes the place. It's her bedroom. The bedroom of the sanctuary. The first thing she sees is that, and then Negan's walker, who's still there, and then Carol, Lydia, and Mika, and several other saviors who are waiting for her to recover. Once they see her focus, sit up, and begin to get her bearings, everyone is relieved beyond comprehension that she is still alive. Because Sophia would have been gained massive respect, not just from her family, how she's grown, but with everybody. Sophia, once she gets her bearings, understands what's going on, says that while she thinks that her being the leader of the Saviors is best, and still does, she has failed a lot in the past, failed to grasp many things, failed to become the leader that she thinks that she could become. But she is ready to listen now, and she knows now that if they had actually accepted help from the Commonwealth, Mika wouldn't have been hurt, she wouldn't have been hurt, Gavin would still be alive, every one of the Saviors that they knew were killed by the Whisperers. And she's ready to listen now, more than ever, to become the leader that Negan would have wanted her to be. Before Carol or anyone can praise her for this, suddenly, some of the outside saviors are yelling. And soon enough, everybody goes out to the gates, sees something they wouldn't have expected to see. It's a horde of walkers. But that's impossible. Lydia knows for sure, she says to everybody, that there was no horde when she was bringing back Sophia. And if there was, she would have seen it, or at least tried to diverge them away the best that she could. But then everyone takes a closer look. And Carol in particular sees someone. Alpha. Alpha is still alive, barely surviving her encounter from Sophia and Carol. The 2 shots to her stomach with the shotgun, and the blade in her neck, not across her neck like Negan did. She's barely able to survive this, but with help from whisperers, she was barely able to survive and reconsoles the entire army, what was left of it, to get revenge. Carol takes no chances and knows that if this army comes to the sanctuary, everyone here who's just recovering from the fight will die. She has to take initiative now and aims an arrow straight for Alpha. But Alpha throws a Whisperer straight in the way of it, killing the Whisperer right on the spot with the arrow straight through his head. Carol doesn't intend on missing twice, though, and Alpha knows this. But Carol, she knows the trouble. If Sophia couldn't get out of there unscathed before, just imagine what this will do now, and prepares another arrow. But she doesn't need to, because in the blink of an eye, before anyone can think or do anything, Alpha's head is cut clean off. But who could have done this? It was Michonne's sword. And who was behind this? Sophia, who had ran down while Carol was throwing the arrows, and cut off Alpha's head while no one was paying any attention, disguising herself amongst the army. Once she gets rid of Alpha, she shoots and attacks the Whisperers and Walkers with everything that she's got to try and at least get away, so that way she doesn't risk dying after she just recovered. But she couldn't let Carol, her mother, fight him alone. There was no way. But soon enough, the army becomes too close to the sanctuary for them to be able to handle, and they know they have to get away. And Carol, Mika, Lydia, Sophia, and any savior that they can get escape the sanctuary to the rest of the army. Shane's Walker and Negan's Walker are broken out in the ensuing chaos, and the entire horde follows them, and the sanctuary is ultimately lost. Now, this would be past the 6-year time skip. We're not even into season 10. So the sanctuary would be left standing a bit longer than you would have expected. But with that said, now the saviors, or what's left of them, make their way to Alexandria, but they have no idea about the communities. Because remember, we're having a 2-season Commonwealth introduction. So nobody knows that the Commonwealth has expanded to every other community. And with that said, and with Abraham and Mercer's involvement, especially Abraham's, and the leadership that's followed, it has definitely been influential to the success of the communities. And once again, they all haven't seen each other since the friggin' Season 7 beginning, whenever Sophia abandoned all the communities and all that. So this would be a big time skip that they're seeing each other again. Abraham and Mercer encounter everyone at the gates, well, everyone being like 10 people maximum, and ask them to state their business. Carol says to everybody what's happened since they left, and notices all the influential changes that have happened to Alexandria since their departure all those years ago. Rick is one of the first to see Carol and everybody, and is proud to see them all alive, but notices a severe lack of saviors that are here, and sees that there's definitely trouble. But before they get into that, since it's almost clear that there might be trouble coming their way, he states what everybody's been up to, and the Commonwealth of Communities, and how Eugene and Milton are actually on the routes to finding a cure. And with Milton's involvement, there's no doubt in my mind that a cure would uprise around this time. This gives Sophia an idea, but it's a very outlandish and possibly foolish idea. Shane's and Negan's walkers are still there, and with any luck, the Horde has broken them out. So they could be in that Horde. If they were to get them out and bring them to Eugene and Milton, perhaps they could cure them to their original, standard. Bring them back to life. They can't save all that Horde, no way. But the two of those people that mattered to the groups the most, it's definitely worth a shot if this cure is actually a thing. And Rick says, while this is a very good idea, it will be a huge risk. But with how advanced the communities are now, it's worth a shot. They can't argue that. And it would be great to have Shane back for their side, and for Negan to be back with Sophia because of how much they cared about each other. So, all in all, it's worth a shot for the greater good. And a huge bunch of Commonwealth soldiers, as well as many of the other group members of Alexandria, go and try and locate Negan and Shane's walkers. It is a bit of an arduous task considering the humongous size of the Horde by this point in time of reaching Alexandria's outskirts, but they eventually do get Negan and Shane's walkers, bring them to a very, very nice laboratory where Eugene and Milton have been expanding just humongously. And you thought the radio thing happening earlier was noticeable? With how much Milton has been around in the story, a cure happening now, before season 10, would almost be certain. And, like I said, even though that it's a huge risk, Eugene and Milton say that they're going to do everything in their power to ensure that this cure works to the best standard of their abilities. They are walkers, so all in all, it's a risk. But while this is all going on, the Commonwealth and everyone there now, with the addition of Sophia, Carol, Mika, and Lydia, and the rest of the Saviors, have to figure out a plan against the remainder of the Walker and Whisperer army, now that it's just that. But Mercer and Abraham say that that's not going to be a problem, because, the end of The Walking Dead, where the whole underground explosion thing happened, and we were introduced to that little tidbit? Well, we get that 2 seasons early, among, everything else Commonwealth-wise, so all in all, kind of expected. Anyways, the whole Walker and Whisper army is laid to the ground in an explosion almost instantaneously, this ultimately being prepared for. After the battle is finally over, everyone, and I mean everyone hearing about this, goes to the laboratory to see if the cure actually worked, because Shane was very cared for in the story, as well as Negan with the Savior side, so everyone's going to want to see this. Well, cure being a cure, who wouldn't want to see it in a zombie apocalypse? And it is very, very, very shocking as to what they see inside. It's not walkers, and it's not failure. It's no one dead, but alive. Shane and Negan, in complete physical form, stare at them. And this isn't a dream. This isn't unreal like Sophia thought it was whenever she talked to Negan then. This is real. The cure worked. And for everyone, and I mean everyone around in this room, because believe me, there would be a huge audience. This would be unbelievably, humongously, and completely heartbreaking. No one was expecting the cure to work, and especially Sophia. It was just an idea, but it worked, and it's amazing to think that this actually, wasn't an outlandish plan. Once everyone gets their bearings together, and believe me, it takes a lot of time, Sophia tries to hand Lucille back to Negan and says that it's his bat. He deserves it. And Negan shakes his head and smiles. No, Sophia. You deserve it. You have become the leader that I always thought you could in my place. And if anyone deserves the leadership role of any savior, it's you. And this would make Sophia tear up something joyful. And they would, hug it out like a little daughter-father relationship that we've had throughout the story. Negan then turns his attention to Rick and says that he's truly sorry for killing Shane and keeping Sophia from them all this time. Had he known how truly much they cared for her, they could have really done something to work it all out much sooner than when Shane came, and just says that he's truly sorry. He then turns to Carol and says that although she was gone for a very long time, he still thinks that Carol raised a very strong, independent woman, and she should be very proud of how Sophia grew. And this would be a very nice, touching moment to hear from Carol, too. Shane then speaks, and this surprises everybody, because we all knew half of Shane's demeanor, but we only saw his goodness streak near the end of his, thought to be life. He then speaks up and says that while he should not have gone in balls to the wall and killed Negan, he was just trying to give Sophia back to the rightful group. But he does apologize for his actions. And with all of that, and a seemingly happy ending, you'd think that we'd be done with the story, but not so. We're forgetting about two very important characters and one villain storyline yet to be completed. What about Glenn and Maggie? Where have they been? Well, you see, I had them a few episodes ago go and build a community with Georgie. Because if you remember, that wasn't because Negan, killed Glenn. She just did that just because. And with Glenn around, it's an extra addition to the whole fight introduction with the Reapers thing. But it's not really a good thing. Because although the hand of Glenn is an extra addition to the Reaper fights, it's not really a good thing when it comes to a certain Reaper. The first Reaper who blew himself up. Because whenever the Reaper does blow himself up, Glenn unfortunately gets caught in the explosion. And this would be past season 10 territory, so Glenn would live 3 seasons longer than his original counterpart, which I only did once in my What If Negan Killed Maggie and then the remake. So, yeah. Maggie would not hate Negan in this timeline. She would hate the Reapers because Glenn died to them. So, yeah. But although the vengeance of wanting to avenge Glenn would condone her mind, she knows that she has to protect Herschel and her new group. And she can't do it the way that they are now, and knows that she has to return back to Rick and everybody else. So, soon enough, she does, and finds everything around her changed, including the addition of the Commonwealth Army, and finding Sophia and everyone, and cures. It's like a freaking miracle! And knows that with this at their side, the Reapers stand absolutely no kind of chance. They are completely, overly, and just... they're nothing. They are absolutely nothing. And once Maggie tells the Commonwealth and everybody about the Reapers, everybody is assured that they are no problem whatsoever. And with Abraham, Mercer, and Princess, who, they're still in a relationship, by the way. Mercer and Princess, not all three of them. Anyway, with the 3 of them, along with Sasha, by the way, leading the cause, the Reapers are just, completely and utterly dominated. There's nothing to speak of them in this timeline, as probably a few others, but, a little bit more of a fight. Here, it's just no contest. The Whisperers were far more a contest. Herschel, living longer than any iteration of him in any story, completely with Dale too, sadly dies here. at the complete end of what would have been the original Walking Dead ending, Herschel dies, living a good, happy, long life. And with so many characters still alive, this could prove to be a very beneficial, if not prolonged, spin-off idea for a lot of characters that we would have wanted to see more of, or, just would have wanted to have their backstories explained a little more. All in all, with a lot of characters surviving, and the fact that cures would be actually a thing in this story, since the whole idea worked with Negan and Shane, the cures would be displayed out to all of the communities. And soon, everyone would be completely cured and would no longer have to worry, except about the whole getting bit thing. But all in all, it would prove to be a very sad, tearful, and happy ending to this story. And I think that even though I have reared towards bad endings before, I think that close to bad endings are okay, but happy endings are much better. This one was way more happy than I would have ever anticipated, and was not something done purposeful until just the end result. And I think that it honestly works out to the best degree. And this is all what maybe could have happened had a certain young girl not met her end at the barn back in Season 2, but had been saved by the leader of the Saviors and adopted to the cause of Negan. And that's where we end this story, my friends. I truly and utterly, completely hope that you guys enjoyed this series, my longest to date besides What If Rick Spared Shane the remake. And with this out of the way, I'm going to be starting my even longer story. I know you guys are probably kind of surprised to already hear about that, but my next story, What If Madison's family from Fear the Walking Dead joined Rick, will actually have a prologue because it has way more story to it than this one. Think of how long this story is, and then think about the fact that I'm adding a prologue to the next story, which will be even longer. But with that all out of the way, stay tuned for the next story, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.